Um minuto. Ok. Está a aparecer o meu nome. Vamos ver se troca agora de imagem. Teste, teste. Há sempre um pequeno delay. Ok, acho que vai aparecer a seguir e quando eu desligar, digo à Francisca para arrancar. Francisca, podes arrancar.
Okay, welcome everyone, and we are finally live. Welcome to the week of Portuguese language and to this round table. The topic for this round table, as you can see, is the experience related to foreign direct investment in Portuguese-speaking countries. And we have an amazing panel right here. We could start introducing the panel, but before that, I just want to give a quick introduction about me. I'm Francisca Gomes, and I will be your host for today. I'm a Portuguese person. I was born and raised here, but my family is from Angola. So at home, I've been always raised with Angolan culture. Right now, I'm living in Finland, in Tampere, but at the moment, I'm under the sunshine of the city of Lisbon. I will proceed with introductions of our panelists, starting from Pedro Lopes, the former director of Condoril. Hello, Pedro. How are you doing?
Hello. Good morning to everybody. Everything excellent right here from live from Portugal also, but with a heart still in Angola and in Africa, as I mentioned previously. I would like to present myself. I'm Pedro Lopes. I'm a civil engineer from Portugal, and I had the opportunity and like to say the blessing of being for the last 14 years in Africa, based in Angola, following major project management for many works. And I would like also to take the opportunity to give a special thanks to the Portuguese Embassy in Helsinki for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here, and hopefully I can pass some of the passion and love that I have for the African culture and for the blessing it was to take the opportunity to be there for so many years with all my heart. I have prepared a very quick presentation of the works just to have a context of following. I will share the screen. Is it being shared right now? Okay. So as I mentioned previously, I am a civil engineer for Condoril. Condoril is a Portuguese construction company this is a brief chronology of the company. established in 1959 as a private company. Then some major landmarks, milestones, and the big one, or one of the that it's more concerned here, is on 1990, the internalization of Condoril to Angola, and to then from here to other countries. This means that we have 60 years of experience, 30 of which in Africa. And currently we have operations established in these countries here being presented, since on the north in Morocco, Cape Verde, Gabon, Angola, Botswana, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique. And why in this map do we have Angola and Mozambique highlighted in different colors? Because due to the language, due to the Portuguese language, and with a very straight connection that exists between Portugal and African-speaking Portuguese-speaking countries, this was the perfect environment to establish our what we call regional headquarters. These are fixed and permanent bases where we are established, and from here we manage all the operations in the surrounding countries. This was our business strategy, and I can say that it has worked perfectly, because although, and I like to say it this way, although we are very far away from home, we are 7,000 kilometers from Portugal, we do not feel abroad or in a foreign country. I remember perfectly, I traveled to Angola. I went to Angola in 2006. And at the same time, I had some colleagues going to Morocco, and Morocco is much closer to Portugal. But the fact that I was in Angola, in the Portuguese-speaking country, I felt so house-warmed. I was so very welcome. And when my colleagues from Morocco shared their difficulties, they were in a completely different universe for them. And for me, no. Because I was in a Portuguese-speaking country. I was going home two times a year, by summer holidays and by Christmas holidays. They were going every 3 weeks, but for them it was like a prison sentence, and for me it was a perfect life. Like I felt right away at home, and it still is very, very good. These are some of the main aspects from where Condoril bases his philosophy and his politics. I don't think it's that much relevant to do a very detailed analysis on this, but I will share this afterwards, and it can be online for everybody to share. Some economic indicators. Here is very clear that the African markets have been decreasing on the last 5 years. We still miss the great ages of 2010, where everything was going on a very high rate of development. And some of the awards that this is also, I like to highlight this because it's international recognition of the awards. Our headquarters, as you can see, we have our headquarters in Portugal, but Angola and Mozambique work as regional headquarters, and from here we manage the national headquarters that we have on all the other African bases. So why Condoril in Angola, and where is Condoril in Angola? In Angola, and since this is a roundtable also dedicated to investment and to market investment in Angola, we were not forced, but we take the decision to advance with the creation of parallel companies from which we support our activity. And why? Because the Angola market still has very limitations when which regards specifically in the construction business, when it regards subcontractors. and we were very dependable on external subcontractors with all the costs that implicated. So we realized that if we created companies that can support our needs, namely, for instance, Urano is a steel shop for all the steel works necessary for our industry. Metish is a civil construction company for the housings and buildings. So we decided that our approach was going to be based on the more independent we can be, the more reliable we can be. So based on these companies, we have currently 800 employees, 85% of which are Angolan. We always privilege the local workers, and also have the privilege to have the necessary resources for that. One project that is also very passionate is Condriel Academy. That is a technical training center, and for which I will have to also take 2 to 3 minutes to dedicate on this presentation. From Angola, you can see on the map that we manage the operations in South Africa, in Gabon, Cape Verde, and Morocco. So the west coast of Africa is being managed from Angola, this enabling a very proximity approach to the other countries. For Mozambique is also as a mirror image, the Mozambique as a Portuguese-speaking country. Yeah, we also have a permanent base there, and it's from Mozambique that we manage the operations, not only in Mozambique, but also in the countries of Malawi, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Zambia. Just a small resume also of the equipment, this meaning that we try to be as independent as possible from the country. And also a very small paragraph or page dedicated to the Condriel Academy, our training center, which we have created in 2010, and from which we provide, and it's a very passionate project also, we provide all the necessary skills to our workers, to the family of our workers, and we have several programs in hand for which we dedicate to them. One of the most relevant ones, the relevant one, is our illiteracy program. We realized that initially we had around 25% of our workers did not know how to write or read properly, and we feel this in parallel with the Angola government directions. We feel that we need to act on this part, and therefore we started to dedicate and create this project, the illiteracy project, fighting illiteracy project, from which we, on a year basis, our goal was to eradicate the illiteracy, and fortunately we were able to provide this scholarship to our workers, and now we are on a very residual basis. This is normally these oscillations between 2%, 1%, 2%. It's because construction works normally are on outside of big cities, so normally we have bridges or roads to build, and we contract local workers, and we realize that those local workers do not have the necessary or the fundamental reading and skills, and we provide that to them. So these small oscillations are no more than that fluctuation we have on our workers. Also, we have recently, 3 years ago, if I remember properly, we created scholarships for higher education. This is a program that was implemented in 2019, so 2 years ago. And it's dedicated to the infants of our local workers, workers that have more than 5 years with us. And we know that they don't have the necessary economic power to provide a better future for their sons. So we created this for their children to be able to advance through basic scholarship, and then access a higher education in the universities that they have. From this, we have currently 21 scholarships awarded to children of our workers, and no restrictions are made on the degrees they choose. We have very transversal and wide range of degrees in hand, since medical degrees, law degrees, engineering degrees. So this is not focused on our needs as a company, but on the needs of the country of Angola. And for me, it's a very pleasure, extreme pleasure to have one medical student, for instance, because we know that it is a necessity for Angola. And then also some of the projects, and I think you can see a difference because some of the projects are in Europe, in Portugal, others are in Africa, and you can see, for instance, I think if you know Angola, and who knows Angola and Luanda will relate to these images, to this image. For instance, the monument to the founder of the nation was rebuilt, refurbished by Condriel. Also, some jetty and marine works to support the oil activities were performed by us at Barra do Land. This project here on the left side, it's in Cabinda for Chevron, for the American company, where we are building a jetty to support also oil companies, because it's inevitable. The Angola economy is sustained by the oil business, and therefore we have to be in parallel. When you look at Portuguese works, mostly are dams and similar projects. In Africa, the works are much more dedicated to jetty works, to road works, to refurbishment of train stations and water canals in Gabon. So all of these are very challenging projects, and in which we involve, but it's with a very pleasure. It's for us to be involved and to participate in this part. Our approach to Angola, Angola is a very big country, so we decided to divide Angola and in order to create an approach of proximity to the local governments, because in Angola, local governments are not independent, but they have some type of independence in order to promote works, public works, with roads, hospitals. So we felt like if we divided the country in areas, we will be able to provide a very swift and quick response to all the needs. And for instance, I was based in Benguela, here on the lower left side of Angola. And from here, I managed the works in Benguela, Namib, Huila, and Cunene. So this to give our example of approach to the works in Angola, and to create this politic of proximity and be able to respond in 12 hours, 24 hours to all the needs that Angola has. If I wanted now to stop sharing. Is it still sharing? No.
Yeah, it's still sharing.
What about now?
But now it's not.
Okay.
Thank you, Pedro Lopes. Thank you so much for your presentation. We're gonna come back to those topics a bit later. Now I will pass the word to Lotte Carlson. Did I pronounce correctly? Yes. A former a minister advisor for Angola, or for Luanda, if I'm not wrong. Could you present a bit about yourself and how are you doing?
Thank you very much. I would just like to say in the beginning one phrase in Portuguese. Eu queria só cumprimentar em português. Boa tarde a todos. Muito obrigada pelo convite e, sobretudo, boa semana da língua portuguesa.
Muito obrigada.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm I'm from Luanda. I'm sitting here in Luanda, Angola. I think most of the people here in the panel today have some kind of a linkage to Angola. So I'm here, and I just need to apologize. I'm on my iPad because I had some technical problems. So if the image is not so good, that's due to that. But yes, thank you very much for the invitation. I've been here now for half a year, and I have earlier experience from Mozambique. There I was living for years. I've been working on Africa for many years and on development. I'm working at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland, and I have thus experience from Lusophone Africa. My experience is more from kind of development side and political side, but I've also been dealing with business issues, and now I'm doing much of commercial relations. So now I'm really working on this subject. And just to say also here in the beginning that what I've been doing earlier on is more like at the macroeconomic level of business environment and analyzing the economy and so on. And now it's like this micro level more in terms of working together with companies and so on. By education, I'm an economist. I've been doing political economy, so that's why it's always fascinating and interesting. Yes. Now I would maybe start by saying that that when it comes to commercial relations between Finland and African countries, more generally speaking, and also then when it comes to Lusophone Africa, the relations are quite modest since a long time. The level in quantitative terms is quite low. However, we now have a new Africa strategy, and that one has, first of all, the approach of the whole of government. And in that one, really, all these economic relations and the diversification of our relations with Africa is in the heart of the whole vision. And also there are some very ambitious goals in terms of getting more trade between us and Africa. And this is the direction to which we are now going. And now I would kind of say why I'm here in Luanda. This is exactly for the same reason. Officially, in fact, I'm working at our embassy in Namibia, but I'm permanently resident here in Luanda. And this is in the spirit of this our new thinking, and kind of in order to see what we can do in terms of enforcing our relations to our political and commercial relations with Angola. And this is a new opening for us. We really have interest in further developing our relations, and have had that already during some years. Now I would be coming to my some of my key points, and I apologize due to this iPad thing. I don't have any PowerPoint presentation, but I think you can follow my thoughts, and I hope that they also provoke some questions and comments. So when we talk about Finland and we talk about these countries, we are not talking about big investment. This is my main message. Like there is at least not yet any big investment. What we have been testimonying is not like opening any production lines or kind of recruiting many people or those kind of activities or opening up local enterprises and so on. It's more like Finnish enterprises wanting to enter into the market and maybe wanting to participating in some competitive bidding processes, tendering, and so on. So this is a little bit different kind of business than the one which was presented just a few minutes ago. And I think it's very good that we have different examples here during the panel discussion. But this is what the reality in big terms seems to be right now. And of course, we are talking about Angola, as it was already mentioned here, as a Lusophone country. Of course, it's a different market from Finland, and also as an African country. All these Lusophone African countries, they are different from Finland, and this is, of course, can be an advantage or it can be a disadvantage. What at least I have already experienced very much is that the importance of the Portuguese language, because that is the official base, that is the official language, administrative language, and so on. And Finnish actors, they don't have so much experience in Portuguese-speaking countries. So that's inevitably also one aspect where we as a government representatives, as Team Finland and others, we have our value added in terms of, first of all, in terms of the language, but also in terms of trying to assist where there is interest, to assist also in terms of figuring out the legislation, the local legislation, and so on. And there I have to say that I've been a bit positively surprised how much you can now already find from open sources. There is access to this kind of information, which is of course very, very good. There is also, to my experience, there is lots of political openness in terms of what would be the right verb to use, kind of improving the business environment, which of course in several of these countries has not been like part of the best ones in the world. When you look at, for instance, the World Bank doing business or other indicators, there is lots of engagement in terms of changing the situation. Of course, it doesn't go overnight, but there is a certain trend towards that direction. At the same time, the world is not very simple or black and white. So even if there is political will, maybe then, you know, in concrete terms, things don't change so fast. So cumbersome administrative processes and others may still exist for a certain time still. So I have to say my personal experience is that it's very interesting and fascinating to be in this kind of an environment, because I really every day I feel the dynamism. I feel somehow that, okay, now would it then be the time for Africa? I've been myself working with African issues for the last over 20 years, and now I see, like, let's see what's going to happen. But I really hope that maybe something positive will also emerge, also thanks to this change, which in the beginning was very negative, this COVID crisis, but it also can can offer some opportunities. So there, it's also kind of there are two types of maybe where it can lead to two types of results from that one. When we look at exports from these countries, they are nearly as modest as our imports or investments. I know that, for instance, Angola is struggling very much in terms of trying to see how it could enter to the European market and other markets. And of course, there we can do our best at the level of different international agreements and so on, the processes. But we know that it's not very easy to enter. We have very many type of standardizations and so on, which of course are not very easy if you want, for instance, to sell, like Angolans would like to sell coffee to to us. It's not easy. But also in that respect, I really think that there might be some mutual benefits if we had like more interaction in general terms, because then also these new ways of importing and exporting, they can also then offer some opportunities, because of course if you start new for instance exports, then you might need to buy something in order to do that, and so on, or you might need to construct something in order to do that, and that's then a more complex issue, but also a team which would then benefit all of us. Then I would like to say that the European Union, of course, is a very important actor, and we are both Portugal and Finland are members of the European Union. Portugal is also now chairing, and it's very good that we try to see at the EU level. We also have these same kind of strategies to try to really enhance our relations with Africa, and it's very good. And we also here at the country level, we try to do our best in order to see what we could do together, what we could do also in order to a little bit facilitate how our enterprises, for instance, can be active and have their operations in these countries. And that's of course very welcomed. Although this having been said, we have to say that we are also of course different enterprises, different countries are also in competition in some cases. So it's it's also like that, but in general terms it would benefit the EU area if we manage in getting more interaction. I would be quite brief. I would say that my kind of thinking is that at this moment, under the COVID crisis, many countries like this country, Angola, is under a huge stress because this country has had its borders closed like for 1 year now, and it's very detrimental for business purposes, and everybody is hoping that this can soon change. Angola has also been experiencing from these economic effects of the COVID crisis, like the demand for petrol is maybe the most illustrative example, and then everything which has followed from that. At the same time, I really believe in the fact that the COVID might change the world in a way which could also offer something, and it could also facilitate finding new ways of dealing with issues, and it would maybe also facilitate in doing things differently, more kind of in a smarter way. It might definitely change consumption patterns, and that's I think it's like in terms of investments, it has been reducing some projects, but it has also been accelerating some others, and the same goes for commerce. So it's very interesting to see, and I would like to be an optimist to see what's going to happen after this crisis. But I would say that we will soon see the opening up of the economies, and then the world might see a little bit different. Although at the same time hoping that there would not be so many more waves of this COVID still on continents where it hasn't been so bad yet. And let's really hope that we can, as kind of globally speaking, that we can speed up the vaccinations and so on, so that the whole planet can recover from this disease. And this is where I would like to finish. I think everything is depending on how we handle this pandemic situation now. At the end of the day, all this with trade and investments will be about courage and about taking the risk. And I think it's really it's really so that there might be some new ways of doing business in the nearby future. I'm personally very convinced that that's the way how it will go in Africa and also elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Last but not least, Ronnie Eriksson, could you present yourself? Ronnie Eriksson is a serial entrepreneur and one of co-founders of Ambitious Africa, and we are really honored to have you here. Hey, Ronnie, how are you doing?
Hey, Francisca. I'm doing great. I'm here actually in Rovaniemi, Lappi. Hopefully there is not too much background noise as I'm here in a museum sitting. We had just a session here just a while ago. But yeah, shortly maybe about me and what Ambitious Africa is, as you maybe can see the shirt here. So this is a non-profit project that we started exactly 1 year ago. And I'm one of the co-founders together with a couple other both African and Finnish people. We wanted to create this bridge between the Nordic and African countries to allow the youth to do different things together. And shortly about myself, I'm a 25-year-old serial entrepreneur from Helsinki, Finland. Been doing startups for all my life. So we had this kind of a startup boom happening in Helsinki or in Finland the past 10 years, where most of the young people actually been encouraged to do entrepreneurship, to try startups, to try different things during their studies. And what we started to see here when the pandemic came was that the same wave, the same thing is for the moment happening in Africa, in all the various different countries. And we wanted to actually create an environment where we could share this know-how, these best practices that we had here in the Nordics. Why did it happen? Why did we get those chances to do these things? And could we maybe do something similar, or could something similar happen in Africa? And well, most of us know that Africa is not a country to start off with. It's a continent full of really different kind of countries. And that of course puts us in a position which makes it really hard from a starting point to say that we have like one solution that fits all, and we never had and we never thought that we will have. So Ambitious Africa was founded on the realization that we have a strong base work done here in Finland and the Nordic region, something we call the Triple E model. So we are really good at education. No one will say that you are not. Everyone knows it around the world. But then this entrepreneurial wave I mentioned has also emerged. So we get entrepreneurship. And then how do you actually make all of these things as we're doing fun? How do you make it so that people actually want to do them? People actually want to be a part of them, which gives us entertainment. The industry I've learned from, for example, games and films, where people go and watch films because they want to watch them, not because mom or dad or someone else tells you you have to do it. And this turns into a triple E model that we now leverage with the Ambitious Africa ecosystem. And together with the youth in Africa, we have started to build a bridge and teams all across different countries. And why I'm also here today speaking is because Angola and Mozambique, the Portuguese-speaking countries, have actually been extremely challenging countries for us to build teams because of the language barriers, but then also other barriers that have come up on the road. During the 1 year we've been active, we've been able to still build teams in 25 African countries. We have more than 300 volunteers who actively are driving different kind of projects. We have everything from business incubators within agriculture to different educational programs to different educational units that we can actually allow to, for example, elementary teachers to upskill their skill level. In addition to that, we're also working closely with, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We had the opportunity to be a part of formulating this new Africa strategy. And Ambitious Africa was the voice of the youth within this strategy. So we actually brought young people all across the African continent together with the ministers, with Minister Pekka Haavisto, with Minister Ville Skinnari, to discuss how they perceive the different problems and challenges that we see on the ground in Africa. So the Ambitious Africa's purpose is to allow the young people in Africa to tell us, what do we need to do? Which challenges do we need to really focus on? And then we look at the Nordic practices or European practices or practices from the United States to see if we could together solve those things. And this is actually how I also met with Francisca. It's been a great pleasure. And with Francisca, we're now driving this whole initiative towards Angola as well. So with roots in Angola, I think Francisca is one of the most perfect people with history in Finland, like how she traveled from Angola, was born up in Portugal, then came to Finland, then started to see how great things are in some regions here, but also how great her heritage was. And now that combination actually allows us a groundwork of starting the collaboration, creating a team, and creating actually a bridge between the Angolan youth and the youth up here in the cold north. So this is kind of what we have been doing. I've been super excited and super privileged to actually meet more people during the pandemic that I have met during my whole life. So I think my great mentor, advisor, and one of the co-founders of Ambitious Africa, Mr. Peter Westerbacka, always tells me is that every crisis is an opportunity if you just seize it the right way. And I think we have all the possibility now that Africa is digitalizing so fast to do these great things if we just see the opportunities and grasp them. So that is who we are, and that is what we aim to do. And I'm super privileged to be in this call today because I think here we have already all those pieces that we need to make, for example, Ambitious Angola and this ambitious project happen. We have the whole innovation ecosystem here, both academia, then we have the government, and now also the corporates. So that's all you need to actually make a ball rolling. And Finland and the Nordics have been especially good at that. And if something we should export more to the world is this motion of having all these different parts working together more closely, and especially giving that speed to the young people, because they are the future. Africa is a young continent. And if we can give them the freedom to run, to do stuff, and support them to actually do great things, I have no doubt that Africa, among all the other continents, will be the greatest one in the world. So thank you so much for having me here today, and I can't wait more of the ingoing questions. And nice meeting you all.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. It was a really inspiring talk, and I'm really glad of our panel today. We have from the corporate level to the government level and to the young entrepreneurs level. I take a quick note from all the talk so far, and I want to talk about the empowerment, the social responsibility, for example, that we had from Pedro Lopes in the first talk, and also a bit about the Finland and Angola and Mozambique import and exports that at the moment is really low, but we have this quantitative level that is low, but what about the quality and how we want to empower the communication between the two countries? Is the language the main key point that we are addressing here? Is the cooperation and how we want to empower the Portuguese-speaking countries, for example, in Africa, to the next stage? So who would like to start? Pedro, could you start?
Yeah.
We have the academy that you mentioned previously, that you empower your workers and also family from your workers to move on with their education, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That, like I said during my presentation, that was a project that we felt the need and the appealing to create. This because we were in Angola since 1990, and although we drive through still some difficult years up until 2002, when peace finally arrived to Angola, then we realized that Angola was a very delayed, I'm sorry for the word, delayed country in terms of infrastructure, in terms of what was basic needs of the people, and basic human rights such as scholarships, such as health access, such as so many other things were still a little bit left behind, because the major reconstruction programs were dedicated to rebuild so many basic things such as access to water, roads, and everything. And we realized that within our own house, as we like to call it, and within our own workers, people with which we really connected and with which we really bond on so many different levels, at a family level, much beyond a simple work relationship. We realized that so many difficulties were there, and we felt the need to establish this project, the Condriel Academy project, initially dedicated to provide training, proper training to the basic skill needs of civil construction, such as masonry, drivers, equipment, maneuvers, everything. But then we realized that much more work was to be done. And fortunately, Angola was on a very high level at that point. We had many works, we had many projects, and we were able to create another level of support to those workers, mainly basically on the program to fight illiteracy, which we realized, and this was as a shock, to be honest, as a shock, because you read the news and you see that in Angola at that stage we had around 30% of illiteracy established within the population. But you do not realize that also happens within your own house, and people with which you have daily relationship with your workers, with your fellow colleagues. That also happens. So when we did the diagnosis, we realized that we were at 24%, and that was a shock. Honestly, it was a profound shock to me to realize that within my friends, I had 24% of them that they didn't have the basic skills to read or write. So it was a very challenging. We work together with the Ministry of Education. We provide to them all the on extra work hours, the access to the schools. Well, better yet, we establish schools within our company. After work, they will shower, they will lunch, and then they will have access to a small classroom. And we provide the teachers from the Ministry of Education. And for that, we were able to progress them, support their progress, and they were submitted to official tests. And the approval rate is at 95% of approval rate when submitted to the official tests of education. So
Yeah.
that was very, very, very rewarding for us. It was a very good feeling to feel that. And they also, and when you know Angola people, you know that they will express that gratitude, and they will express that very vividly, and they will say thank you because now I can support my children with their homework. Now I know what they are doing. Now I can read a simple message on the label of a product. That is very simple and also very strangely rewarding for us.
Thank you, Pedro. And I want to point out two things about what you just mentioned. First, when, if I'm not wrong, when Condoril actually opened up in Angola, it was like right before the war ended. So we had like pretty much destroyed population in a way that we had the country stopped for a few years because of the war. So it's expected that Angola was pretty delayed at that point, just to ensure that. And about the literacy rates, it's amazing, like what you've been doing within your own works. I just found out a few minutes ago in your presentation that actually my dad worked for Condor. So in Angola. So yeah, that's
hopefully
amazing.
good things from him.
Yes, and I remember that he used to tell me when you come to Portugal that we had these rituals that after school some of their colleagues will go to the school and some of them would stick together and do retraining and restructure the programs. So thank you so much for that. And about Alota, I saw that you are trying to create a better cooperation between Finland and Angola, and also a little note that I saw that you are also trying to establish Angolan representation in Finland. So how you pretend to move on with that, and how you pretend to stronger the connection between both?
Thank you, Francisca. No, we are not going to try to establish Angolan presence in Finland. What is the situation is that we, as Finland, we have I've been sent here in order to see what our future might be. We are now represented from Namibia, and that might be also the situation in the future. But we will see how one can operate from Namibia in terms of government. The world has changed a lot with COVID. For instance, the flight connections are really bad, but they were already bad in the African, Southern African sub-region, and now due to the pandemics, they are even worse. So we also need to find new ways of working in terms of our organization. But I would maybe like to say I was very inspired by the other speakers, and I was thinking when you were talking about the different ways of really try to see how to improve the lives of people. I think that it's much of question about incentives, and there are different means to build up a reality where there would be the right incentives in place. And this goes, for instance, to prevention of everything which is not good. I would give you an example. 2 weeks back, there were very bad rains in Luanda, and many people lost their homes. And there you come, for instance, to this preventive way of thinking, which is it's the responsibility of both authorities and the communities and the people themselves and so on. What I have understood is that the capacity here is not yet really at the level where it should be, because there were so many people who lost their homes due to the rains. They were heavy rains, but they were nothing like really extraordinary. It was just like heavy rains and flooding and so on. So then we come to the question, okay, this might be an effect of the climate change, which is of course very bad if that is the case. But then there are also some other phenomena which are linked to this. What's definitely worsening the situation is the bad waste management, which there is in Luanda, or that there hasn't really been a good waste management in place. And then also that the preventive measures have been a little bit lacking, starting from where people are living. And also when you talk about the education, it's a question of course, we have been talking about the quality of education for some years already, at the more global level also. But then if you measure only, if what the teachers are doing, that how many teachers we have or whatever, then we are lacking the perspective of if there are any disincentives for people, for instance, to sending their kids to school, and that's where it maybe starts. So I see that everything which was mentioned here before, it's very good if we somehow try to find different ways of doing things and combining different measures by different actors. And I was very pleased to hear that Ambitious Africa is coming to Angola. We are here waiting for you, and you were also mentioning the Nordic experiences and angle. I'm sitting here with Swedish and Norwegian colleagues together. We are sharing the same premises, so the Nordic perspective is really good as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lotta. And adding a little note to that, I think the Nordic way of doing things inspiring me in doing things in a different way and bringing change along with Ronnie, for example, with Ambitious Africa and Ambitious Angola that is coming hopefully soon. Now going to Ronnie, we are talking about incentivation like Lotta talk, and you have a team managed by volunteers. What is like the incentivation that you give to your people to keep working and doing projects based on a volunteer work?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for it. And I think the story goes a bit back again to like what happened here in the Nordic region and what kind of like changed a lot of this mindset of like young people wanting to start to do stuff that actually has a greater benefit for the whole society. And I think like if you look back in the years and history, like this kind of like mindset of bringing people together and doing stuff together, being a community has always been a really big thing, especially in Africa. And in the Nordics, for some years, we lost that. We like when things start to go really well onward and things start to evolve, you quickly kind of like forget that you actually need to be with people, and you become more individualistic. And that's not always great, but of course, like that means that things are great because then you have that opportunity that you don't have to lean on the people besides you. And while forgetting that, I think like what happened during the past 10 years is that we started to remember that maybe the time has come for us to again start working together. And when we work together, it's actually a lot more fun to do stuff. And we learn stuff pretty quickly because we have examples. We have other people on our side that we can lean on when things get hard. And I think that's the big value of Ambitious Africa. So Slush, for example, for those who don't know, it's one of the biggest startup events in the world, organized here in Helsinki, Finland, once every year now. It's been on a pause for a couple of years because of the pandemic. But before the pandemic hit, it was 20,000 people big, organized by 2,700 volunteers. And those 2,700 volunteers, they didn't get a salary out of it. They did it because they wanted to do it. And when they did it, they actually learned how to do these great things together. And now if you look back at those people who were doing Slush at that time, we have Miki Kuusi, the founder of Volt, a unicorn company nowadays. We have Supercell, one of the hugest gaming companies in the world, valued with over 10 billion euros for the moment. And all of these stories started there that people came together and started to do stuff together. So I think this is the exactly the same perception that why people are joining Ambitious Africa and why they see value in this Ambitious Africa thing is that we create those connections that you need to do and make your dreams happen. And Angola has been a challenge for us because of the language. Like most of us Finnish people don't know Portuguese or Spanish, which makes it always hard to kind of like get the first access point. But I wouldn't say that the language is often the biggest barrier, but it's the biggest barrier for us to reach each other. But now that Francisca has been found, or she has found us, either way, I think we have a good starting point to actually start reaching out to these different people, and slowly but surely you start to find those people who actually either manage the language or then they manage the kind of like collaboration between these two continents. So it's a lot about like showcasing examples, and this is the biggest thing that I've seen lacking on the African continent, is that because there are not strong enough examples from different sides and different perspectives, people are not able to take these leaps and challenge themselves. And I think this kind of like low threshold networks actually allows people to try their own wings, because if you fail, what does it matter? Like, you tried and you did your best. And that's exactly what we need to do as well when now setting up Angola. We have no idea how to do it. We have no connections to ask. Now we have Lotta, who started to do something there. But I was Googling and I didn't find actually no Finnish or Finland or Nordic things actually in Angola that strongly, which makes it pretty hard to start something there. But now we start to have one thing, and now we can try and test and iterate. And when we're doing that for a long enough time, we start to like find the solutions, the answers, and maybe 1 year or maybe in 5 years, we have the most amazing Nordic Africa team happening in Angola, but also here in the Nordic region. And we can see like people moving, different products moving, and collaboration happening more on scale. And in the end, we're still people here, and we try to like make the best out of our lives. And it's a lot more fun together, and especially not if we can go a bit more further than only to our neighborhoods.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ronnie. We have now a question from the ambassador of Portugal to Pedro. Pedro, do you have any advice for Finnish entrepreneurs or business people in Finland or in Estonia that want to invest in the Portuguese-speaking markets in Africa? What would you take in account before we do an investment like that, or what advice would you give to them, to the Nordic region, to make investments in Portuguese-speaking countries?
It's not an easy answer. There are no magical formulas to that. I was during my journey, I witnessed many good stories and bad stories, bad outcomes and good outcomes. I think, and taking into consideration also what Ronnie was saying previously, what I always felt was the advantage was the language. I always felt that the Portuguese language closened up as a company, as a culture. This taking into comparison the foreign companies from America, from Europe, France, and Britain. That is so. My main advice is try to manage basic Portuguese language and communication, at least as a way of breaking the ice. That is well accepted. That will open many doors. The other advice I can say it's that to study the legal aspects of the law in Angola. They still it's a very still Portuguese-based law in terms of 1975 with the independence. They have taken into consideration the existing laws and simply adapt them to the current events. So they are still not so elaborate and complicated like sometimes we find it here in Europe, and connected with one another. That basic laws there to follow in terms of investment. And also one of the main difficulties that has arisen in the last 3 years was the commercial transactions, the banking commercial transactions. There was a major lockdown in foreign exchange in Angola, and so that created additional difficulty and a major difficulty for everybody. So for my main advice for investors considering investing in Portuguese-speaking African countries is try to manage basic Portuguese language. It's not that complicated. That's my opinion. As a Portuguese guy,
I agree.
And also try to create that support and connections from someone that is already in Africa, and that's someone that can give you that direct support. Otherwise, you will be very easily lost.
Yeah,
and lost there.
Yes, and I want to give a quick note. I've been in Finland for 3 years, and for the past year, I teach Portuguese actually. And I teach Portuguese to 4 Finnish people, and they were my best students. So I want to say that it's not hard at all. And now I give the word to Lotte that wants to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to react on what was just said. I would like to encourage to see now there is one piece of new legislation in Angola since February this year, which is the new criminal code. And that's a very modern one. And also when it comes to business issues, there are very modern anti-corruption paragraphs in that law. So there are also new developments, and there have been changes in the kind of laws which have to do with employing people and so on. So everything is happening slowly, but there are some changes also during the latest years. But yeah, very good comment also when it came to the legislation as a whole, because I think that's how it is.
Yes. Is there an advice that you, from the Angolan side, could you say to the public if you want to go to Angola right now? What are the biggest struggles that people can face there in order to make connections, or where should people go if they want to start making the first connections in Angola? And now it's like for Pedro and Lotte for both.
Sorry, I thought it was for Lotte.
I can start. I just, when I was listening to Pedro, I think he was saying basically the same, which I already also covered in my first words, which was the language that cannot be stressed too much. Maybe it's that also Finnish people, for instance, are quite they have been thinking that you can manage everywhere in English, and it's not so in each and every part of the world. I myself have a bit different experience, and have been also earlier also in some other countries where you don't speak English like as the first language, and I maybe have this experience, but many people don't have, so they take it for granted that you can do different procedures, for instance, in English. But this is absolutely the one starting point. And of course, you have to be realistic, because in terms of how you start something, I'm not saying other than it is complicated when you come to a completely new environment and you don't know anybody, and you don't know how things work, you don't know whom to trust. It's not easy, and there is no kind of a template that doesn't exist.
Thank you, Lotte. What about Pedro? What are your advices?
Quite similar to Lotte. I was listening to her, and she was perfect. It's not easy. There's no template. My advice, or I had the opportunity also to establish new operations in African countries, not Portuguese speaking countries, but in this specific case, Gabon. And I experienced those difficulties of arriving. My company, not myself, the Condorial had the support of having a contract signed with the Gabonese government, and that was our main support, and we had it. But for an entrepreneur, and without that type of support or motivation to arrive and have that secure base, it's not easy. I could suggest the embassies as a diplomatic support in terms of connections. I think they can provide you with some basic contacts from which you can start. There are also some associations I'm speaking from the Portuguese level, like AICEP, that works as a bridge between for the companies in terms of providing you with a safe network of connections from which you can rely and from which you can take advice from. But no, there's no magic formula, only challenges, only dedication, only more bad times than good, but at the end, the good times overcome all the difficulties. That is for sure. That is my experience.
Okay, and our three panelists have experience going abroad and doing projects in Africa. What will be your three top challenge with 3 words that you could name, not only in Angola, but in Africa in general? For the investors, for the markets, for the communication? Hard question. Ronnie, we can start with you.
3 words. I would say connection or connections, both. It's like kind of one thing. That's one for sure. Do you want me to elaborate, or do I just like mention one word?
You can mention. Yeah.
Yeah, but the connection, it's connectivity. Like there is not enough connections actually to reach out to people, and then also the connectivity has caused a lot of problems. Kind of like how to reach people in the more rural areas, for example, which leaves always a certain part of the people outside. Then I would say cultural understanding, or the wrong perception we have about Africa. It's not starving children and huts. It's more than that. It's amazing people, amazing cities, and a lot of growth. And if we would know that, we would also be able to take the leap. And that actually takes us to the last point, which would be trust and transparency. So as there is not enough things happening for the moment, not enough examples again, that leads to a situation where we can't trust, or we can't is the wrong word, but we don't trust. And we can transparently do things. And that's just like exemplifying from that there are not a really limited amount of angel investments, if almost none, to the African continent from Finland, which is like a huge problem. And there is no reason why not. And if some place in the world is the world and continent of opportunities, it is Africa. And those angel investors would have a lot more fun and interesting time if they would have the courage to actually invest. So those are my 3.
Thank you so much. We can go next. Pedro? 3?
3 words, 3 direct words. I have it, and it will be a personal experience, not much more than that. I think the 3 major words from which I can connect to my experience is the passion that it provides. That it's the sentiment of fulfilling or rewarding, because it's very, very easy to dedicate to a project and receive that sentiment of fulfilling and rewarding. And for me, Africa will always have the word horizon as a subtitle, because it's an amazing land with so much to grow and so much potential. And who wants to invest there and dedicate seriously there they will not regret it, for sure.
Thank you so much, Pedro. Now we can go finally to Lotta.
There is not much left to say, because I agree with nearly everything which the other 2 have been saying. But I was thinking about, first of all, really going local, and that can mean either to countryside and knowing the country also, outside of the capital, because often life can be very different outside of the big cities in both good and bad. And this also can mean at the same time that, as I think it was mentioned earlier in this discussion by someone, that one size doesn't really fit all. So you would not maybe go so far if you try to use what you have been using somewhere else. Global solutions might not be the ones which would work in some local circumstances. So local in that way. Then I think in each and every occasion where I have been, and there have also been some frustrations, let's put it this way, So optimism is always good, because here, if you compare the cultures, where they might differ a bit is that in Finland we have very many standard procedures, and we have ways of doing things. But then when you come to some different cultures, you might still, if there is no procedure, you might still find a way forward. You just need to be patient, and the patience is one of the words, and the optimism is other. And if I can add still a fourth one, that would be kind of the act of being a little bit humble, because when you go to new environment, you never know anything about that. So it's maybe better to be humble. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you. Thank you to our live audience, and thank you to the Embassy of Portugal in Helsinki for organizing this. I want to give specially thank you to Milma Kettunen. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. Søren Koch and the Honken School of Economics. I also want to thank you to all of our Portuguese speakers around the world and the ones that want to become one. So I warmly invite Roni to become one of the Portuguese speakers. And I want to highlight that Portugal is the third most spoken language in the world, the fifth most used language in the internet right now, and we want to keep growing. So let's keep celebrating Portuguese in this week of the Portuguese language. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here. And it was a pleasure. I give this talk with a lot of inspiration, and ready to launch ambitious Africa and Angola, ready to launch a lot of projects, and ready to network with all of you guys. Thank you, and it was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much, Francisca.
Thank you,
Thank you
Rani.
also. Bye bye.
Thank you, Pedro. Adeus.
Adeus.
Thank you.
Resto bom dia, adeus.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience. Boa tarde.